Thanks for watching Morning Live. The announcement on land expropriation by the ANC lekgotla last week has ruffled some feathers. Now, the lekgotla recommended that the power to determine matters related to expropriation of land without compensation should reside with the executive. But political parties such as the Congress of the People, COPE, see this as an abuse of power, arguing that the ANC cannot make an internal party decision on the matter, one of national interest. Now, this comes as Parliament's Land Committee gears up to engage South Africans in public hearings in February on the amendment of Section 25 of the Constitution. Dr. Mathole Motshekga is an ANC Member of Parliament who chairs Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee on Land Reform, and he's here to give clarity on this perspective. Thanks so much for your time this morning, Dr. Motshekga.
Thank you.
So let's start here. Firstly, if you could just in a nutshell wrap for us what the ANC's actual decision is on this particular matter.
The ANC responded to a call by the Ad Hoc Committee that all political parties represented in Parliament and those outside Parliament should make submissions on the bill that has been gazetted. So the ANC, as a democratic organization, took the matter to the NEC and also to the lekgotla and adopted a resolution. And as the Ad Hoc Committee, we made the call to all political parties, and we are expecting all of them to do the same. So there is nothing that the ANC did which is not in line with the call on all political parties by Parliament.
So, and I guess this is perhaps where some of the confusion arises with regard to this being, as you say, a resolution of the African National Congress. But the question then is, what is the position, the status of this particular resolution with regard to the draft bill?
The status of the resolution is that that resolution, together with resolutions by other political parties and the outcome of the public hearings, will be taken to the Ad Hoc Committee, which will synthesize and on the basis of all those inputs draft a bill that will then be presented to the National Assembly for consideration.
So, in other words, this is by no means a fait accompli. It is something that still will be deliberated upon.
We are a multi-party democracy. We cannot listen to one party alone. We can't listen to the ANC alone. We made a call on all political parties to do exactly what the ANC has done. Tell us what is it that they want to see in the bill. And the fact that the ANC provided the leadership doesn't mean that the ANC is out of order.
So let's just expand a little bit more upon this particular resolution with regard to the powers of the executive and the powers that the courts would have with regard to your proposal as the ANC. What did you resolve in that regard?
You say the courts adjudicate over disputes. They don't carry out administrative and executive actions. You cannot expect the judges to go and investigate where the farms are situated, how much the farms are worth, and determine how much must be paid in terms of compensation. That is something that should reside in the executive. But the aggrieved parties have a right to go to the courts and say, I've been prejudiced and I want intervention. So that's how the legal system works.
COPE, for example, have said that this is a blatant abuse of power, the ANC overextending its power influence once again. And then there were several opinions that I read as well that express a similar kind of view, that the ANC is placing too much power in the hands of the executive with regard to this particular position.
With respect, in a democratic society like ours, political parties are entitled to express themselves on issues. So the ANC has expressed itself, and we expect other political parties to express themselves, and we are expecting South Africans to express themselves. And if we criminalize self-expression in a democratic society, then that will be negating the democratic process itself. So there's nothing out of order that the ANC has done. In fact, we want all other political parties to do exactly what the ANC has done, and even to take a different position, but we will give equal weight to all submissions regardless of the size of the party.
Given the undeniable importance of this particular matter, the emotive nature of it, this land question has always been a very emotive one. Some people feel that the ANC is taking a matter of national importance, and not just any matter, but one that sits at the very nub of, what the society and what previous disposition was all about, and making it an ANC decision as opposed to perhaps extending it and making it a more broader decision for most South Africans.
It is not for the ANC to make it a broader question. It is the duty of Parliament. Parliament called on all political parties, including the ANC. So the ANC gave the lead and made its proposal. And Parliament is not bound by what the ANC is saying. Parliament wants to hear all political parties, and Parliament will give equal weight to all proposal by all political parties in and outside Parliament, and also submissions by the public. So it is unfair to think that the ANC is imposing its position on Parliament. That is just their submission, and they are entitled to do so. And we called on them and other political parties to make submissions.
And with regard to the slow pace of transformation with regard to the land issue, the ANC has taken quite a bit of stick in this regard. How do you propose speeding up this particular process?
It is precisely why we say we cannot leave this matter in the hands of the court, because the courts adjudicate over disputes. They don't investigate into where the land is, to whom does the land belong, and who are contestants, and so on. So the executive is a democratically elected executive which must govern the country, which must run the country, and if things don't work, people blame the governing party. So the governing party is making proposals as to how these land matters can be speeded up, and in my view, that is the right thing to do. Otherwise, the ANC would be irresponsible.
The ANC has been slow, or regardless, over these years. So what is going to be different this time around?
It was slow because these matters were so bureaucratized, and now the proposal that the ANC is making is to make sure that these matters are speeded up, but within the spirit and letter of the Constitution and the law.
What about the issue of corruption? Because that's been one of the bugbears with how things have been done to date. Not only has it been slow, but there have been reports of widespread and rampant corruption in some of these instances. I remember doing a pre-election debate just here on Gauteng's West Rand, where there were stories of how councillors, managed to somehow circumvent processes such that they end up with land that had been earmarked for distribution and redistribution. How are you going to deal with the question of corruption in this regard?
You see, for instance, the ANC has adopted what they call a district model development process, where it will ensure that the national government, the provincial government, the municipalities, and members of parliament work together so that there should be no loophole left for anybody to be corrupt in the administration of the affairs of the state. So I think that the ANC has learned lessons, and now it is ready to make sure that everybody acts in the interest of the people of South Africa as a whole and not in their own interest.
Is there any appetite to go back and actually do some form of assessment with regard to where things have gone wrong and to rectify matters in that regard?
Certainly, because, a lot has gone wrong because we place much trust on the different spheres of government, that the municipalities will be responsible, provinces will be responsible, regional land claims committee will be responsible. But now, this time, the ANC is going to make sure that the center holds and everybody is accountable, and that people that are fit for purpose are deployed in the positions that will be executing the task.
And then, of course, the issue of the IngaYama Trust, did that come under discussion at all?
You know, the IngaYama Trust, unfortunately, is dragged into this space. It doesn't belong there. That is an issue which is regulated by a statute, and that statute will be dealt with in the course of business by the Ministry of Land Affairs. But we are dealing with the amendment of the Constitution. We're not dealing with the IngaYama Trust, but I think that people just mix potatoes and apples where they don't mix.
Well, you could argue that. Alternatively, you could argue that it is, very instrumental to the land question and of course, people's right to own land. And it was an issue that the advisory panel also got into and made some controversial to some recommendations around. So it is part and parcel of the land question.
Because historically, we neglected the question of communal land tenure. It was not clear because land was held in trust by the state. In this case, land is held in trust by the IngaYama Trust. So government must go and sit and say, in consultation with the people, what is the best way of holding communal land. So we cannot use the IngaYama Trust as if things have gone wrong. Things in IngaYama Trust just highlight the fact that there are things that we have not yet addressed, which needs to be addressed.
And then with regard to the process from here on in, just again, for clarity's sake, how is the process going to unfold from here on in, and taking into consideration the ANC's resolution in this matter?
At the end of this month, we are going to go to all the provinces and consult with all our people in their languages and ask them as to what do they want to see in the bill that must be presented to Parliament. And after hearing all our people, regardless of what they're standing in society, and after hearing all political parties, however small, in and outside Parliament, we will sit as the ad hoc committee and craft a bill that will present to the National Assembly for consideration. So we are not going to do anything behind the back of our people, because this is not a party political matter. This is a matter that concerns all the people of South Africa, and the outcome must actually reflect the will of the people of South Africa, both black and white, as a whole.
So people, in other words, can rest assured that they will be reflected in this particular bill, and therefore they still have opportunity to go out and make their voices heard.
We have no choice because the highest court of this land has also set out criteria as to what is sufficient consultation. So we are going to conduct this consultation taking into account what the highest court of the land has said, to make sure that the consultation meets the criteria laid down by the courts and also is transparent and all our people have access to the process.
What would transparency mean in this regard? When you say the process is going to be transparent, what would that process look like?
We will make sure that we use all platform, community radio stations. We will use other platforms in the communities, traditional leaders forums to inform our people. And we'll use all other avenues that are available within communities to inform the people that the parliamentary committee is coming to talk to you, talk in your own language, tell us what you want to see so that we don't impose anything on the people, because as members of parliament, we have no agenda of our own except to make sure that the will of the people of South Africa is reflected in the final draft.
And how is this different from the work that the Land Advisory Panel did?
The advisory panel was a structure set up by the president to advise him so that he can be informed on the situation. But that was a matter of the executive. So executive is one of the three branches of the state. We are parliament, and we have to represent the will of the people of South Africa as a whole. The executive is entitled to appoint committees to advise itself on how to deal with matters. But Parliament is independent and is going to act as an independent body. We are not bound by what the advisory panel did, but we took into account what that panel did because we think they did a very good job.
And just finally, when will this process start and how long will it go on for?
In February, the whole month, we will be going to all provinces. We'll be interrupted by 2 days of the State of the Nation address, but the whole month we will be all over South Africa listening to the people, talking to them in their own languages so that the will of the people, not the will of parliamentarians, prevail, because we are both a participatory and a representative democracy. We have got to meet those two criteria.
Well, thank you so much. ANC's Member of Parliament, Dr. Mathole Motshekga, responding to concerns about the ANC's recommendations on land expropriation without compensation. And as you heard there will be a participatory process during the month of February where you can go and have your views heard in this matter as well. Right now, though, time for news with Leanne at 7.